want to go over a few things. First of all, it's good to be here. I don't get here as often as I'd like to, but whenever I'm here, I like to catch up with everybody, talk about things I'm doing on your behalf at the City Council, things that are going on in the community that we've been working with or working together on, and answer questions that you have. So when I'm not here, you know that Rudy is here. Rudy's in the back there. He was here last month. Before that, Sal Simonetti from my office was the one who covered these meetings primarily. Sal took on some other meetings in Howard Beach, and we let him off the hook on this one. So now you get to torture Rudy. Okay, so just a few things. First, the City Council, we passed the budget at the end of June. It was a balanced, on-time budget with no tax increases and no layoffs of city workers. That was something that was probably the highlight of the budget. Everybody talks about creating jobs. Everybody's for creating jobs these days, but what about helping people keep the jobs that they already have? There were proposed cuts to the Department of Education and pedagogical employees that we were able to restore in the budget, working together with the administration to make sure that we can avoid those layoffs. People getting pink slips in the middle of the summer is not a pleasant thing, especially people who went into city service with the expectation that they would have job security if they worked hard and did their job, that they wouldn't have to worry about losing their job. So we're very proud of that and we're happy about that. There were other things that were restored as well. You know that fire engine companies were restored. You know that library service was restored. You know that OST funding for after-school programs, much of that was restored as well. So, you know, is it a perfect budget? Absolutely not. You know, times are very tough at the state, the federal, the city level. We made cuts where we were able to make them, but we didn't have to fire anybody and we didn't have to sacrifice our quality of life. A few things in the budget for Woodhaven that you may know about already. First, the money that I get every year for the WRBA, $3,500. I don't know if it's $3,500 or $4,000 this year, but it's something. You know? Did you check Schedule C? It's $5,000. Okay, I actually gave you $5,000 this year. So I know that pays for a lot of the printing of materials and a lot of the community outreach that you do. It's very important. It's not a lot of money, but $5,000. I know that. You know, you use it well, and you apply for it, and we try to make sure that it's there for you every year. So that's there this year. The sanitation money, the money that we originally started last year for the extra day of litter basket service along Jamaica Avenue. That was something that Councilwoman Crowley, Councilwoman Kozlowitz, and myself put in for last year. Much fanfare, very successful, was able to cut down on the amount of garbage piling up on the street corners. That was put in this year. I put in $20,000. I'm not going to speculate or comment as to where the other money was supposed to come from, but because I was the only one who put in for that money this year, the extra day of litter basket service will only continue to be in effect for Jamaica Avenue from Dexter Court to Woodhaven Boulevard. I do not represent the other side of Woodhaven Boulevard. I have nothing against the people that live in Woodhaven on the other side, but my responsibility is first and foremost to my constituents. And rather than do just one side of the street, which is in some parts of Woodhaven where I represent, I said, just do both sides of Jamaica Avenue, continue the extra day, the third day of litter basket service, but if you have to stop at Woodhaven Boulevard, I understand. So if you notice that this side of Woodhaven Boulevard is looking a lot cleaner than the other side, don't blame me, the money's there. Forest Park, we fund a lot of great programs through the Forest Park Trust, and Debbie Coor, she does an outstanding job. We have a karate program there, we have a number of concerts that, a lot of elected officials sponsor, quite frankly, at the Super Band Show. We had a few rock and roll and doo-wop and Motown concerts that took place this year. They were very successful. I got to attend 2 of them, and there were probably 400 or 500 people there, so we're happy that that's there as well. And then Ed, you mentioned Sisters of Notre Dame. That's an organization very close to my heart. Sister Kathy is a dear friend of mine, and the sisters do an outstanding job of helping women in need, not only with ESL classes, but getting them ready for entering the job market and giving them computer skills. And unfortunately, some of the women that go there are victims of domestic violence, and that's something that I also care very much about it, and they counsel the women there. So the sisters do a really great job. You know, they have very little overhead. I mean, I've seen their budget. They live in the convent on the top floor. They pay the rent. They pay the electric. Every other cent that they raise goes into the program, helping women in this community who are at a disadvantage. And that's something that I know, you know, I've seen Ed and your wife there at their fundraisers, and so many people here. It's a great cause right here in Woodhaven, living in Woodhaven, helping Woodhaven people, and it's something that we support them too. So, you know, myself, Speaker Quinn, and I know other elected officials are very supportive of them as well. The graffiti, anti-graffiti initiative that you have spearheaded, there was a great article in the Daily News. Now, it wasn't only great because I was mentioned, it was great because it was about you. You meaning the Block Association. You have really done a yeoman's job here of breathing new life, not only into the civic, but into the community, and getting people concerned about the quality of life things in the community. That is what impacts us the most. The noise, the garbage, the graffiti. These are the things that annoy us the most, and when we can address them and solve them, working together, you know, whether we get the elected officials to donate paint for mailboxes, or we were out there with that painting the fire alarm boxes. It was the hottest day of the year. Rudy was there, Sal was there, my cousin was there, you know, Ed and his wife were there. You know, the little things really make a difference. How many people drove by honking their horns, waving at us, saying, you know what, thank you very much, I pay taxes, I live here, I want this to be a good community, I don't want to feel like I live in a slum. You know, Woodhaven is a great place. People pay a lot of money to live here. I don't have to tell you, but I feel bad for families that are buying their homes now. You know, the housing market has destabilized somewhat, but the market values are still very high. You want a 1 or 2 family home, you're going to pay $500,000–600,000 for it, and you have to put 20% down. The banks aren't lending to young couples, you know, like me and my wife. You can't put 10% down, you have to put 20% down. Yeah, so it's very hard. People make a lot of sacrifices to own their home and to live in a community like this. And when we can make the quality of life a lot better for them, that's something that, you know, should be commended. So the Civic really has taken the bull by the horns and, you know, putting it out there in the press and establishing this zero tolerance on graffiti is something that I have to really tip my hat to, because it's something that, you know, I ran on 3 years ago that, you know, annoys the heck out of me, and it's a pet peeve of mine. So when somebody else is out there trying to accomplish the same goal, I say, you know what, more power to you, brother. Thank you for what you're doing, because, you know, no one person can do it on their own. It takes a community, it takes a village, and you guys are definitely making a difference. The garbage we talked about, but I just want to mention, we did drop off these flyers at the last meeting, and we brought some more today, and we put them by Dory on the table on the right there. These are flyers that we had printed from the Department of Sanitation. They're very pretty. They are in full color, somewhat expensive, but we had a whole case of them printed. On one side, they're in English. On the other side, they're in Espanol. So there is no reason why anyone should not be able to read what this says if you live in Woodhaven, because lots of people here speak Spanish or English or both. So we want to make it absolutely abundantly clear that you cannot use the litter basket on the corner for your household trash, for your commercial garbage, you know, that you can get a $100 fine or more, depending on what you're dumping there. So we are distributing these throughout the community. I've had the interns in my office, you know, on the commercial corridors and going up the blocks where it's really bad, handing these out, putting them, not in people's mailboxes, but in their fences or in their doors, distributing them to the businesses. Sanitation has given out a number of summonses. I get a monthly report from sanitation. I know people have a hard time believing that, but if you call my office, we could tell you the date, the time, and the place, and what type of summons was issued. They do give out tickets, and we have been very aggressive in making sure that they give out summonses to people who illegally dump. But, you know, it's one thing to punish people, but we also want to educate them. We'll give some people the benefit of the doubt that they don't know it's illegal. Maybe their landlord told them they had to do it because they're living in an illegal apartment. Maybe out of force of habit. Maybe they don't think they're allowed to put their trash out if they live above a store on Jamaica Avenue. So, you know, we want to educate people. You know, the law has to be even-handed in that we educate people and we inform them and we let them know very clearly that you're not supposed to do it, but at the same time, if you're caught doing it, you know, there has to be consequences. So we have a balanced approach, and, you know, I know that WRBA is going to be helpful with that as well. The noise issue. Now, the bill that I introduced in the council about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we met with Speaker Quinn and her staff about a month and a half ago at your urging and many others saying, where is this bill? Did it just die in a committee? So there seems to be some interest in amending the bill and possibly taking it to the next level. We'll know when we go back in session at the end of September where that's going to be. But we had a very good hearing, and we were able to kind of test at least the spirit of what the law was intended to do. One of the things that I asked for in that bill, if you remember, was that the police or the DEP or sanitation, whoever was going to be in charge of actually enforcing the noise code, carry with them those sound meters, because then it wasn't subjective in terms of what unreasonable noise really is. And so a few weeks ago, working with Ed, we had a meeting in my office with the head of enforcement for DEP, and we talked about what type of summonses they issue, and we put them on a sting operation, or what did we call it at the time?
Operation
Silent Night. So we said, I didn't want these poor people going, some of them, they don't carry firearms or anything with them, they're not peace officers, so they're just there to enforce the noise code. We sent the DEP enforcement agents out with the local precinct, so it was a DEP enforcement official with a police officer from the 102nd precinct, and we said, go to the top 10 or 12 locations where you get the most 311 complaints. Let's do a sting operation where we go to the worst offenders, the people that are getting reported the most, and take that sound meter device with you and stand outside and measure the decibel level of noise that is coming from that property. They went out that night, it was 3 Saturdays ago. They gave out 3 summonses. How many, Rudy? 3 summonses, $350 a piece. I don't think that they were too happy to get a knock on the door and seeing a cop at a meeting. That is what the law was supposed to do. And unfortunately, for lack of resources and time, the NYPD doesn't always get to a place in time. They knock on the door, they tell them turn it down, they drive away, the music gets cranked back up. At least with the sound meter, there was clear evidence that you were violating the law. We've been here before. It's not like you're having a birthday party or a once in a while, you're having a barbecue. These are the people that are driving everybody nuts on the block every single weekend. We went to those homes and those locations and we just said enough is enough. So, we want to send a message, again, to the community that we welcome you here, we want you to live here, we love living here and working here as much as you do, but you have to be considerate of your neighbors. You can't vandalize the community with graffiti, you can't play music until all hours of the night, you can't dump your trash in the corner so that when we drive down the avenue, it looks like a horror show. There are certain things that we will not accept as a community and that we will fight against. And so this is something that, we're going to do it again, but it was the first time it was ever done here. We've never got DEP and NYPD together, to go to the same houses and actually knock on a door and say, come with me, pal. This is the other interesting thing about the DEP summons. Not only does the violator get the $350 summons, the landlord gets mailed one as well. Which is very effective, I think, because there are a lot of absentee landlords here in Woodhaven who are living in Suffolk County and Nassau County, renting out apartments, legally and illegally here in Woodhaven, and when they get that bill in the mail, they're not going to be happy with their tenant, so maybe they're going to crack down on that as well. So it's just a different approach that we were able to try. It was very successful. We want to do it again, but we had to keep it under wraps. We didn't tell anybody about it because, we really want to surprise these people. The last thing. Much to do about redistricting this year. The census was conducted last year. Woodhaven, I believe, got the short end of the stick in many respects, not in every respect, but with congressional lines, a lot of people were dissatisfied with the state senate lines. The city council redistricting is coming up. As a matter of fact, one of the commissioners on the redistricting commission is the former councilman for Woodhaven, Tom Agnew. Thomas Keenly, he lives in Middle Village, he's from Queens, he's one of the commissioners that was appointed there. Just so you know, it's a much fairer process at the city level than it is at the state level. The mayor actually appoints 7 appointees to the redistricting commission. The Speaker of the Council appoints 6, and even the minority leader gets to appoint 3. So there's a 16-member panel, bipartisan, appointed by the mayor, the speaker, and the minority leader, who get to appoint commissioners to the redistricting commission. So, Woodhaven is of concern, and I would urge the civic to get involved in the hearings and the public proceedings that take place regarding redistricting. The next hearing is being held on August 21st from 5 to 9 p.m. These are public meetings, and it's going to be at the Queens Library in Flushing on Main Street. So if you're interested and you want to attend, you want to talk, or you just want to listen, please attend these meetings. Don't let the commissioners say, no one from Woodhaven had enough interest to show up and tell us that they wanted to be in 1 district or 2 districts, or that they wanted Atlantic Avenue to be the boundary, or Park Lane South to be the boundary, or Forest Parkway to be the boundary. Whatever boundaries that you are interested in pursuing. You have to show up at these hearings. You have to express how you feel and what type of representation you want. Right now, I would say we are very fortunate in that you have very responsive elected officials at every level, who really try to address the concerns. Woodhaven is not a majority of my district, but we still make sure that we secure the funding and that we attend the meetings and that we are accessible to people in Woodhaven, because even though you are a small part of my city council district, you are my constituents. You pay taxes, you pay my salary, and I work for you. You don't work for me. So, we try to be responsive, but, there is something to be said about having a council representative, that is totally beholden to a community. And not that I'm advocating that, we kick Liz Crowley out, or that I take over, that she takes over. I'm just saying that there is something to be said about having the community in 1 district. So long as that we don't disenfranchise, or violate the Voting Rights Act with minority groups, which I don't think we would be doing, because Woodhaven is a very diverse community. But, barring that, I think that there is something to be said there. So I'm not pushing this on you. I'm not saying that you have to show up and say you want Woodhaven in 1 council district. But I think that, me personally, it wouldn't be a bad thing. If Howard Beach, for instance, was in 2 districts like they were with the congressional lines, they were going bananas. Charles Park fell into disrepair. People were not happy that they had, Wiener or Turner on one side of Cross Bay Boulevard, on the other side they had Congressman Meeks. They were not satisfied. They felt like they were not getting, the representation that they deserve. And that's not a knock on any of those officials. It's just saying, when you slice and dice communities of interest and you divide them by boulevards or by streets, and you take away their voice in government, it's not fair to those people who live there. So, that hearing is again August 21st from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Queens Library in Flushing on Main Street. If you can get there, it's important. I know you mentioned about voting too. I'm not getting into an election spiel, but the last day to register to vote is tomorrow, Governor Cuomo, for the primary. So if you want to vote in the Democratic or Republican primary, which there are both, on September 13th, you have to register. You can do it online now. Governor Cuomo announced and the state announced that the DMV can actually register people online based upon your driver's license or your state ID. So making it easier for people to register to vote is important. People should be voting. It doesn't matter what party you register in, but you should vote, you should register, and you should let your voice be heard. That deadline for the primary is tomorrow. The primary itself this year is not on a Tuesday, it's on a Thursday. The Tuesday in September this year is September 11th, so the legislature decided to move that to Thursday to the 13th. So this year, the Democratic and the Republican primary will be on Thursday, September 13th. And the last day to register to vote in that election is tomorrow. And if you mailed it today and it got postmarked today, that's great. Otherwise, you have to do it online on the DMV website, which is a good thing, but you have until tomorrow to do that as well. Lastly, haven't been here in a while. Some of you know, some of you don't know. My wife and I are expecting our first child. The good news is, unlike my wedding, I will be at the dinner dance because, 3 years ago, you had the dinner dance on the day I was married. So I think I had a good excuse not to be there. But this year, she's due October 29th, so that's not interfering with the dinner dance. Just made it. will be there, but it's a girl, we're very excited, it's a wonderful, yeah, we know. So I'm getting all the sleep I can now, and you know, it's a wonderful time for me and my family personally. You know, we got a lot of stuff going on, but you know, we are not shirking on our responsibilities to this community. We're working for you, we're here for you. You know, my office is there for you, and anything that Woodhaven ever needs, you know that we are a call, a tweet, a Facebook message, we are there, we are accessible, and we do the best that we can to help you. So, am I allowed to take questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Assemblyman, yeah?
With regard to the budget, you know, the out-of-borough medallions, I think, might have been a part of the budget. Is there a contingency?
Oh, yeah, we are very concerned about this. If you read or seen in the news today about the court order, you know, basically against the out-of-borough delivery cab, certain yellow taxi service cab service. It's about a $1.25 billion part of the budget. It's a $58 billion budget. It may not seem like a lot of money. $1 billion is still a lot of money. We are going to, the city, from what I've been told from David Yaski's office, is going to appeal this decision. I think that they have grounds for appeal. I'm not a legal expert, but I think that there'll be an opportunity for the case to be heard. And I think that we won't have to propose any cuts until the appeal is heard. I imagine they'll file an RJI, you know, for emergency judicial intervention, that it'll be heard in the next week or two, and we'll know what we have to do. Now, if we lose the appeal, I imagine the PEG letters will go out. You know, those will be letters that go out to the city agencies detailing that they have to cut a certain percentage or a certain amount from their budget. So the police department, the education department, the sanitation department, you know, it's likely they're all going to get letters saying you got to shave $5 million or $6 million or $10 million from your budget. So, you know, we're very concerned. $1 billion is a lot of money. It was something that the state and the city worked very closely on. You know, people had very strong feelings about it, but, you know, at the end of the day in Queens, I thought that, I believe that, you know, we can only benefit from having more options and more alternatives and letting people hail a yellow taxi on Woodhaven Boulevard and not have to wait, you know, for a livery cab or wait for the bus. You know, we are very limited in terms of our transportation options in Queens. You know, we know this in every respect. So whenever we can have more, you know, resources or alternatives at our disposal, we should be given them. And why should people in Manhattan be allowed to hail any kind of taxi and people in the other four boroughs are not? So, you know, I think it was about fairness. I think that the decision was flawed. I hope that the city wins on appeal, you know, for our sake, and you know, we'll see what happens with that. But if we lose, you know, that's going to be a problem. And that just happened 2 days ago. So this is not something that we kind of anticipated. It just was like a wrench in the gears. Yeah, Arlene, Alex, Maria.
I just want to ask you something.
Yeah.
I paid my real estate tax, and it went to Pennsylvania.
Oh, jeez.
And I just paid my water bill.
That's in New Jersey.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to know why this is happening.
Yeah, we have a bill in the council. This was something that we introduced last year, you know, to do this in-house, to do it, you know, cheaper. We believe that city workers at the Department of Finance and Taxation and at the DEP, that we can do it in-house with provisional employees, you know, doing it for a lot less than outsourcing these jobs. Everybody talks about outsourcing jobs. I'm not for outsourcing jobs anywhere, to India, to China, to New Jersey. I don't care. You know, I mean, I want jobs in New York City and in New York State for New Yorkers who need them. The fact that we have to pay, as you mentioned, water bills and our tax liens and send them to, you know, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Newark, New Jersey, I think is a disgrace. You know, because we have, in a sense, taken jobs away from New York City and given them to other states when the savings are not realized. I haven't seen any evidence, and nobody has shown me any evidence to suggest that it's cheaper to send it out there. I don't think it's cheaper. You know, I think it's cheaper to keep it in-house, and not for anything, it's kind of like a slap in the face to the taxpayers and the people who, you know, you are all responsible citizens of this city. You're not, you know, skipping out of town and not paying your bills. You know, you're paying your bills. You're sitting at your kitchen table and you're writing out your checks and you're paying your bills. And you shouldn't have to shake your head in disgust that you're sending checks to other states to be cashed. You know, when you're paying for services in this community, and then you read in the papers about all the other cuts to city services, well, you know, that's something that should be taken up. So there's a bill, we have it in the council, I'm a co-sponsor, there are lots of people on that bill. I think things like that are going to be taken up by the next mayor. I think that there are a lot of things that this mayor has done, some people agree with, some people disagree with, but you know, the mayor, this is a strong mayor system. New York City is not, you know, this, you know, total democracy where everybody's an equal partner in government. The mayor is the chief executive, it's an executive budget, you know, he can execute things with agencies. The system itself is set up to have a strong mayor at the top so that you can hold him accountable. You know, the problem is when you disagree with him, you know, you're stuck with his decision until he's out of office. And I don't think he's running for a fourth term. So, you know, I'm not voting for that. I would never support that. I think 2 is enough for anybody. You know, third terms are always the killer. I said this to my wife last night. We're watching TV. I said, you know, I supported him for the 3rd term. I thought he was better than the other person that was running against him, who happened to be a very fine man. But, you know, had he gone out after 2 terms, I think we would have been naming schools and bridges after him. You know, that 3rd term is always the killer. It's the killer for Koch, it's the killer for Bloomberg. You know, after a while, people get that malaise, and, you know, nobody's indispensable. To say that nobody can do this job as good as me or him, it's not true. You know, you'll have a new councilman one day, you'll have a new borough president one day, you'll have a new mayor one day, and we want that person to do a better job than I'm doing, because the community will benefit. No, you can't say nobody's going to do as good a job as me, and that's why I need to stay here. So I think he should have packed it in. He would have had a much better legacy. Now he's got the snowstorm, he's got the soda ban, he's got you know, the breastfeeding, circumcision. Every time you turn around, you know, he's going after how people are choosing to live their lives. I just think you leave people alone, let them pay their bills, and they'll be all right, get off their backs. But you know, look, he's not a terrible mayor. He's not a great mayor. I always said he was kind of like in the middle, mediocre mayor. But you know, the next mayor, whoever that will be, things like this are going to come up, and hopefully they recognize that it's not a good thing for the city, and they'll change those policies. There's a lot of things that are going to change. Change is good.
We're gonna have to move on, because we do have other people.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry it took up so much time.
Thank
I
you.
apologize, but thank you very much.